I, 26-year-old male, had been in a relationship with my ex-girlfriend, 24-year-old female, let's call her M, for about 6 months. The first 5 months were wonderful. We started things off slow, meeting up only once or twice a week during the first month. However, after our 4th date, I realized that I really liked her. Something magical happened when she came over to my place that night, and after that we started talking every day. I had no desire to talk to any other women, and even deleted my dating apps. I also cut contact with another girl I had seen a few times right before meeting them. For the next 5 months, we spent almost every whole weekend together, going out and having fun. One night, after we had gone out for food and a comedy show, M was in a terrible mood. There were 6 comedians performing one after the other, and the first guy had a whole act about how bitches ain't poop and how men should never sex. While the audience laughed, I didn't find it funny. M leaned over and asked what the comedian's deal was, and I explained that he had negative views about women. I told her that it was just a comedy show, so she should take it with a grain of salt. She replied with a simple, "I know," but then she didn't find anything else funny for the rest of the show. Near the end, there was a second to last comedian who had a funny story about his cheating ex, but didn't mouth her like the first guy did. M wanted to leave, and I didn't object because I could tell that she wasn't having a good time. During the car ride home, M started accusing me of finding misogyny acceptable and of cheating on her because all men do it. She projected her insecurities onto me for about 15 minutes while I was driving. I unlocked my phone and handed it to her, telling her to look through my texts, but it wasn't enough to convince her. When I dropped her off, she told me that we were finished and that she had never seen this side of me before. I was shocked and at a loss for words as she got out of the car and walked into her house without looking back. To be honest, after our breakup, I found myself crying on the drive home, feeling helpless and thinking I had done everything right, but it still didn't work out. However, as time went by, I started to get over it, and after a month with no contact between us, my feelings slowly dissipated. Looking back, I realized that hindsight can be a real pain, and I wish I had seen through the B's earlier. One Friday night, while hanging out with some friends, I received a call from an unknown number, which I ignored. Shortly after, I received a text from the same number asking to talk. It turned out to be a guy who claimed to know M, my ex-girlfriend, and he had some news for me. According to him, M had been playing both of us, and he had evidence to prove it. Despite feeling somewhat apprehensive, I couldn't help but feel a bit of satisfaction knowing that I was about to find out the truth. As we spoke on the phone, he confirmed my suspicions, and I learned that M had been secretly married for 2 years to this guy who was taking care of his dying mother in Brazil for the past 6 months. The poor guy had no idea what was going on and had been completely blindsided by M's actions. Despite the shocking news, the guy reassured me that he was not mad at me and that he knew I was a good guy. At this point, I just felt bad for him and couldn't imagine what he was going through. So there I was, hanging out with a couple of my buddies on a Friday night when I got a call from an unknown number. The person on the other end claimed to know my ex-girlfriend, who I'll call him, and said he had some information to share with me. He then proceeded to tell me that M had been playing both of us and was actually married to him for the past 2 years. He had been away taking care of his dying mother in Brazil for the last 6 months while me was seeing him. I couldn't believe it. I had been completely fooled by M's lies and deceit. However, what the caller told me next was even more surprising. He explained that M had recently gone on a weekend getaway with him to a concert, which was about a 6-hour drive away. During the concert, M's phone died, and while he went to the bathroom, she had no idea he had left. He then drove back home in his car and packed up all of her belongings. He then drove another 90 minutes to her parents' house and dropped off all of her things there. He blocked her number after she demanded that he pay for her flight back home. I was in awe of this man's bravery and cunning. He had pulled off the ultimate revenge and left M with nothing. To add insult to injury, M's parents were furious with her and had reached out to her husband multiple times, begging for his forgiveness. It was a wild story, but I was glad that this man had reached out to me and shared his delicious shenanigans. We even remained friends after that. Redditor's reactions, next story after. Redditor 1. I love how dudes just come together like the Power Rangers when they realize they're being played by the same cheater. Op answer. For real, man. That poop really does morph our souls when it happens. Redditor 2. Bruh, I thought he was gonna be the comedian for a minute. Redditor 3. People sometimes confess their bad deeds and their accusations. I was accused of cheating for years. Never once even considered it. Now I'm separated, and he's with someone he met online while married. Sometimes people are just not what they seem, but they forget you reap what you sow, and they always act surprised when it comes back around and bites them in the ass. Answer this exactly. That's what I wish I would have picked up on. It's not easy in the moment because you're so busy trying to get them to see clearly while being on the defensive side of the argument. I hope you're doing better, and I hope he got his just desserts. Story 2. Cheat on me, okay? So much for that dream job. The title makes it seem more vindictive than it actually was, but to me, it is rather funny. Several years ago, I was romantically involved with my ex-girlfriend W, who was pursuing her second degree in computer science at a different school at that time. Prior to this, she had initially studied archaeology but faced difficulties in securing employment in her field. We were both employed at an answering service, which we despised, and our friendship gradually evolved into a romantic relationship after circling around each other for a few years. I had always been clear about my belief in monogamy, as I am not comfortable sharing my partner with others. W was aware of this stance as we had discussed it at length, especially since she had been present when a previous partner had cheated on me. One weekend, W informed me that she would be traveling to New York City to spend time with some of her archaeology friends from the United Kingdom. Being in a committed relationship with W, I had a single, non-negotiable rule that my partner could do almost anything they wished but should never lie to me. If I discovered that my partner had lied to me after the fact, it would be a deal-breaker for me. Upon W's return from New York City, I noticed that she appeared incredibly guilty, and upon questioning her, she eventually admitted to cheating on me with her friend from the UK. Although this was devastating news, we still had to work together, and I made it clear that I was unwilling to continue the relationship as it was a violation of my core beliefs. However, I was open to remaining friends, and I meant it sincerely. In summary, my ex-girlfriend W and I had been in a relationship, which ended due to her cheating on me. Nonetheless, we were still able to maintain a cordial relationship as friends, despite the hurt and disappointment I'd experienced. Several years ago, during the early stages of my relationship with my ex-partner W, who was studying computer science at the time, I became privy to her plans to build a life with a long-distance boyfriend from the UK. As a result, she began looking for a new job to support her aspirations, and coincidentally, my mother, who was the vice president of technical support for a software company, had several job openings available. Given our close friendship, I knew that W had a high chance of landing a job at my mother's company, but what she didn't know was that one of the positions was earmarked for someone who would be trained in the US office and eventually sent to the UK to establish a new support office. Although I had reservations about helping W and her boyfriend, I ultimately wanted her to be happy and felt that she deserved the job based on her qualifications. Therefore, I suggested to W that she apply for a job at my mother's company, but I didn't reveal the UK plan to her. I felt that if she got the job on her own merit, she would have more leverage to negotiate for the UK position down the line. Despite my recommendation, W ultimately chose not to apply for the job, a decision that I now view as a classic blunder. While I wasn't particularly fond of W's boyfriend, I still valued my friendship with her and wanted to see her succeed. However, as time passed and I learned more about their relationship, I began to realize that I couldn't fully support her decisions if they involved betraying my trust or lying to me. Ultimately, our relationship ended due to infidelity, which was a deal-breaker for me. Despite our past, I still wish her the best in her endeavors and hope that she finds happiness in her personal and professional life. Nearly half a year after the breakup, W completed her degree and decided to apply for a job at my mom's company. She forwarded her resume to my mom, who had several job openings available at the time. After she got hired, W shared her plans with my mom about wanting to move to the UK to be with her ex, who cheated on her with someone local. Unfortunately for W, my mom replied that they were actually looking for someone to fill a UK position at the time of W's application. As a result, W realized that I had left out important information about the job posting when I suggested she apply to my mom's company earlier. Despite this, W and I remained friends for several years until we grew apart due to our different life paths. However, every time we got drunk, would often bring up how I ruined her life and deprived her of her dream job. While I felt sorry for her, I always reminded her that she was the one who started the deception by cheating on me, which broke my trust and led to the chain of events that resulted in her missed opportunity. Redditor's reactions. Next story after. Redditor 1. It's sweeter knowing that you didn't actively sabotage his future, but he did it to himself.
Close for that!
Redditor follow-up. It's fun when you know people well enough to give them exactly what they need to screw themselves over. Redditor 2. He cheated on you, and then he got cheated on by the UK girl. That's petty revenge you want. You're a good person for trying to help him and he chose not to apply, and turned out to be UK position. Petty revenge. I love this story. Redditor 3. So I'll remain friends, and every time he got drunk, he brought it up. What a loser. Story 3. Wife had a month-long emotional affair, and I'm not sure how motivated she truly is to repair our relationship. My wife and I have been in a relationship for 6 years, but we've only been married for 6 months. Our marriage started off rocky as she recently called me while at her parents' house to express her unhappiness, feelings of loneliness, and disappointment with our marriage. Her words didn't come as a surprise to me, as I had also been feeling down for a while due to relocating to a new state for her job, which caused me to leave behind my job, friends, and family. Despite feeling down, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to her sudden unhappiness. It seemed strange to me that she would be this unhappy so soon into our marriage, unless there were underlying issues that she had been dealing with before our wedding that she hadn't shared with me. So, last Sunday, I woke up early and decided to take a peek at her phone. Unfortunately, my suspicion proved to be true, as I discovered that she had been having an emotional affair with a coworker, and things had already escalated to the point of exchanging nudes. I was furious when I found out, especially since she had been gaslighting me for over a month, making me feel like I was being a neglectful husband, all while she was engaging in this emotional affair behind my back. In the moment, I reacted poorly, unleashing a torrent of angry words and hurtful statements at her. I just couldn't believe that she had betrayed me in such a way, and it felt like a dagger in my heart. Our plan was always to relocate close to our hometown in July, so I decided to resign from my job and move back in with my parents until we can figure out our next move. My spouse expressed regret and wished she could undo everything that had happened. However, I made it clear that her apology alone would not suffice, and that she needed to take concrete steps to make things right. To begin with, she will be attending counseling sessions to address her behavior starting tomorrow. We have also decided to seek marriage counseling on a weekly basis, albeit remotely. Despite our efforts to repair our relationship, there have been some challenges. During our conversations, my spouse expressed difficulty in getting over the hurtful things I said when I found out about the affair. While I acknowledged that I could have handled the situation better, I couldn't suppress the anger I felt at that time. My spouse mentioned that nobody had ever spoken to her that way before. However, I couldn't help but point out that it was because she had never been unfaithful before. Despite the difficulties we are facing, we are committed to making things right and moving forward. My top priority right now is salvaging our marriage because I don't believe my spouse has been herself lately. Despite my efforts to reconcile, there have been moments where my spouse has expressed that it will take some time to feel better and that she's having difficulty dealing with what I said to her. While I understand her need for space and healing, I can't help but feel like she's trying to push me away. I don't want to give up on our marriage so easily, even though my spouse had a 5-week affair. However, I'm not entirely certain how motivated she is to fix things. She assures me that she's committed to repairing our relationship, and it was her idea to attend marriage counseling, which we will begin on Thursday. However, I have this nagging feeling that she's reluctant to tell me if she wants to end things, and she's prolonging the process until I'm the one who has to make the difficult decision. Despite my doubts, I am hopeful that our first counseling session will bring clarity and transparency to our situation. I'm not expecting it to be easy, but I'm looking forward to having an open and honest conversation with my spouse, even if it means hearing some unpleasant truths. Ultimately, I believe that with time, effort, and communication, we can overcome this challenge and emerge with a stronger, healthier relationship. Redditor's reaction. Redditor 1. Okay, I see lots of problems and have some questions. Did she quit her job or do something to not be in contact with app anymore? Because if she didn't, that is a terrible sign. Do you know what reconciliation means and that the relationship will never be the same? Are you really sure nothing happened? Did you get tested for STIs? You got married only 6 months ago and look at what already happening. You sacrificed a lot for her, and it was painful for you, and so the relationship hit a low for a couple of months. But instead of working it out with you, trying to cheer you up, encouraging you to make new friends, etc., she decided to have an emotional affair with coworker. She is blaming you for your reaction, but doesn't realize that she is what triggered it. You can't stab someone in the back and blame them if they scream at you. That screams blame shifting, and it's a terrible sign. I don't really see genuine remorse. And if you don't really know what it looks like, did you ever hurt a kid by accident? You know, the feeling of shame, guilt, you feel bad for them. You want to do everything to make them feel better. That is remorse. And I don't see that same energy here.
I see some bad traits.
She kept telling herself that you were a bad husband to justify her emotional affair. She didn't care how it would impact you. She didn't try to work things out. She could have left you instead of cheating.
I'm not you, and it's your life, your choices. But on one hand, you could go back to your hometown, maybe try to get that job and hang out with friends and family or try to reconcile. But even if you decide to reconcile, I would try to get the marriage annulled so you avoid a divorce, or maybe the divorce could be advantageous to you. So get tested for STEDS and talk with a lawyer. Op answer. So when I found out about the affair, I called him from her phone and told I knew what was going on and had the evidence to take his job by sending the information to their HR department. This spooked him, and he's since left. She has a contract that runs through June, and if she left now, she would not be able to start her new position in August. I got tested just to be sure, and there was nothing, but I needed that peace of mind. After she blame shifted me over the phone, she texted me to tell me she didn't mean to play the victim, and she knows what she did caused me to react in the way I did. Redditor 2, she is having an emotional affair after being married to you for only 6 months. If she can do this during the honeymoon stage when everything is supposed to be extremely lovey-dovey and you two are the only people in the world, what is she going to do after 10, 15 years of marriage when the mortgage is due, the washer is broken, and the kids are sick? I know it hurts, and I have been in your shoes, but now is the time to think logically, with your head, not your heart. How you know it was only an emotional affair? Do you know many men who would tolerate it only being emotional? Have you told the guy's girlfriend wife? Doesn't she have a right to know? Do not tell your wife when you are about to do this, just do it. Have you informed her company's HR about their inappropriate relationship? The first thing she should have done was resign. Finally, don't buy into her gaslighting and trying to place the blame on you. You were in the same relationship as you were, but you didn't cheat. This is all on her, all of it. And if she can't take you being mad at her having an affair or calling her names, I question if she is mature enough to be in an actual relationship. Good luck, stay strong, and do what is best for you. Never let anyone disrespect you. Do what you must so that you can always look the man in the mirror in the eye. It does get better, and the pain diminishes once you decide to take control of the situation. Op answer. I've been doing the best I can. It takes a lot of me not to call text to unload on her. I've been leaning on family and friends for support, interviewing for jobs in my hometown, working out, and making weekend plans with my friends. Everything will work out, one way or another. Redditor 3. She told she's having trouble getting over the terrible things I said to her once I found out about the affair.
Oh, so she complains about your reaction to her infidelity.
Laughable. She's deflecting responsibility. She has no right to complain. She was the one that cheated. In order to truly try for reconciliation, the wayward partner has to be completely 100 upfront with the full truth of their infidelity. If they withhold anything at all, then reconciliation failed. If they hold back on any of what they've done, then the betrayed spouse uncovers new information. That betrayed spouse is dragged back to D-Day all over again. Second, the wayward partner must block and have no contact with the app. If it was a coworker like your wife's app, the wayward will need to leave that job and find a new one. If they remain in contact with the app, reconciliation failed. Remaining in any contact with the sap at all is rubbing the betrayed spouse's face in the infidelity. Third, the wayward partner must give the betrayed partner 100's access to everything: phone, emails, social media, etc., location, finding, etc. The betrayed spouse will need that access to feel secure in the newly forming relationship. This isn't negotiable. If the wayward spouse refuses, then there's no reconciliation. Finally, that wayward spouse needs counseling to discover what emotional shortcoming they have that caused them to feel like infidelity was okay. Reconciliation fails in 90s attempts, usually because a wayward partner can't resolve their own issues and refuses to do the work necessary to allow the relationship to become secure again. They want a rug sweep and pretend like nothing happened. Meanwhile, the betrayed spouse is shattered emotionally and has no one to turn to for support because the person that shattered him is their partner. Sure, the wayward spouse will show some effort for a short time, but 6 months down the line, they begin to resent the betrayed partner for their inability to reconnect. Little do they know the emotional damage they caused often takes years to overcome. Thus, they stop working at it and the relationship fails. If I was you, given the short duration of the marriage and the facts that she's already cheated, I'd end things now rather than waste a year or two more on her trying for reconciliation. Better a clean break early on than a messy one 2 years later.